Hi folks, Dom Lawson here from Metal Hammer magazine with today's lovely iron sandwich thing. I'm outside because it's a lovely sunny day and because I've never done one outside, so I thought that would make it incredibly exciting for everybody that's watching to see me outdoors rather than indoors. Brilliant, huh? Dear me. Clutching at straws, you say, scraping the bottom of the barrel. Right, today I'm going to talk to you about one of the big metal releases of the year, which is out at the end of the month, if it isn't, or no, it's not out already, I think it's out last week of January, as far as I know, and it's the new album by Lamb of God. Now, I don't know if it's leaked yet, but certainly a lot of people seem to be talking about it online already. I mean, what can you say? They are one of the biggest metal bands on the planet right now, and that's it's a relative concept really, because of course there are only a handful of metal bands that are actually big in any kind of meaningful sense commercially, but certainly in our world, Lamb of God are one of the biggest bands right now, and at the risk of being a kind of nostalgic old twat, I actually remember when I used to work for The Other magazine a long time ago, about a decade ago, over a decade ago, bloody hell, being in the office and New American Gospel turning up and being stuck on the stereo. And that was the first that I'd heard of Lamb of God, and it was we were kind of, the majority of people in the office certainly were blown away. And don't give me that cobblers about, I was into Burn the Priest. No one was into fucking Burn the Priest unless you lived in Virginia. No one fucking was into Burn the Priest. I liked them when they were Burn the Priest. No, you didn't. Sorry. Unless, like I say, you're mates with them or something, or you lived down the road or saw them live in Richmond. But anyway, so New American Gospel was really it had a big impact, because I think that the lack of a kind of successor to Pantera was of some concern, I think, to the metal scene really. And although Lamb of God certainly don't sound like Pantera, there are elements of the same stuff in their sound, and I guess their sound is a kind of composite. Their trademark sound anyway is a kind of composite of thrash metal, of the kind of Testament variety, and the grooves of Pantera and stuff like that. And I think the comparison is a relatively valid one, because I think since New American Gospel, Lamb of God have kind of become the Pantera of the modern scene to a great degree. Obviously there are bands like Machine Head around that are as big, and even better established because they've been around longer. But Lamb of God are very high on the list of important metal bands these days. And so the new album Resolution is a very big one for them, because they've it's their 7th album, if you include the Burn the Priest one, and they've been steadily getting bigger and bigger with each album. And I think Roth kind of was a kind of landmark for them in some degree, in that it certainly got the best reviews that they'd ever had for their career. I thought Roth was a fantastic record, I've got to say, but I had 3 or 4 tracks on it that I really, really loved, and the rest I kind of I dug, but it wasn't. Overall, I think I preferred Sacrament, even though it was a bit more polished, which is probably not my usual preference, but certainly, Roth was a big album. The song Grace from Roth, I think, is an absolute, up to this point, it was my favourite Lamb of God song. Amazing record. So, although there are some moaning kind of anti-metal twits who will say that Lamb of God stuff all sounds the same and that they're just kind of meat and potatoes metal, I disagree thoroughly. I think they have a trademark sound, certainly, but that's not the fact that you can recognise Lamb of God when you hear them doesn't in any way diminish the uniqueness of what they do. It's funny how people have a double standard about bands that are consistent sound-wise. It's okay for AC/DC to keep making the same record, but when Lamb of God make records that have similar sounding songs on them, and they're certainly not to the same degree of AC/DC by any stretch of the imagination, people complain and say, oh no, it's all the same. Well, it's not all the same, you're an idiot, shut up. But anyway, the reason I mention that at all really is that Resolution is the album that really expands what Lamb of God do. Now, it's not going to freak people out. It's not an album that's going to, astonish anybody because they've suddenly gone jazz or hip hop, or it's just a lo-fi punk album or something. But it's an album in which they certainly push the boundaries of what they do and experiment in ways that perhaps people wouldn't have expected, and they do things on this record that are surprising, in a low-key way, but surprising nonetheless. The first point that I want to make is that it's by far the best album that they've ever made. I think this is an absolute, you know, a stormer. It's a stone cold classic record. I've listened to it over and over and over again. It's by far the best thing they've done. I think it's the first album where every single song is an absolute belter. The production on it's fantastic. Like Roth, it's a lot more raw than Sacrament, but it's got a huge sound, and it does sound very much like they sound live. You know, it's got that real kind of in-your-face attack to the guitar tone. You know, and everyone performs their asses off on it. It's you know, it's a superbly precise record, but it's not clinical. It's got a lot of groove and a lot of feel to it, which is wonderful, you know. But the thing about this album, there are two main things about this album. First of all, the performance of Randy Blythe is astonishing. This is, you know, I mean, he's had his critics about his vocals in the past, that he's kind of a one-trick pony or whatever, but that's always been bollocks anyway. He has a very distinctive vocal style, you know. But and he has sung clean before. I think there was a bit on Rother he sang clean, but certainly this is there's a track on this album called Insurrection, and the first verse of that he sings clean on it, and it's amazing. It's brilliant. It's, you know, it's a really impressive thing, and it's a kind of bolt from the blue, really, that, you know, adds something to his armoury as a vocalist. I'm looking at the track listing, that's why I keep looking down here. But anyway, the album begins with Straight for the Sun, which is a flat out doom song, really. You know, it's a real sludgy, slow, incredibly powerful 2.5 minute ish kind of doom song, and it's just amazing. It's a great way to start an album. It makes a change from the usual, you know, starting with a spooky intro and then kicking off with something fast. It's you know, it's a really dramatic and kind of morbid sounding beginning, and then they boot off into Desolation, which I'm sure most of you will have heard, which is a kind of classic, you know, Lamb of God speed metal groove thing, you know, just incredibly catchy. And then Ghost Walking, which was the first track that they put out on the internet, and I know people kind of said, oh, it's just typical Lamb of God. Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to have a few tracks like that on the album, but it's I think it's a brilliant song. You know, I think it's as good as anything they've put out. It's quite similar to Redneck in some ways, but it's, you know, it's another winner, I reckon. You know, there's not a bad track on this album. Guilty's great. The Undertow is a great track, and then track 6 I think is fucking amazing. It's called The Number 6, and it's got a huge chorus on it, absolutely amazing. Some really brilliant riffs, but then there's this bit about 2/3 of the way through where it all the dynamics kick in, and there's a real kind of spooky Faith No More-esque, creepy Mike Patton-y bit, you know, where they break down to a kind of little shuffling beat, and it's all kind of moody and weird and off, you know, not what you'd expect at all. And I think that's, you know, it's them. It's not experimental in the sense that they've made a drone album or you know, or they've gone jazz, like I said before. But it's you know, it's a curveball, and it works brilliantly. It really suits them. And when they kick back into the song, it's got incredible power because of what they've done prior to that. Then there's a little instrumental called Barbarossa, which is very nice. Invictus, another great track. And my favourite track on the whole album is track 9, which is called Cheated, which is just a flat out hardcore punk song. Really, I mean, it's metal as hell as well, but it's really, you know, it's proper thrashing hardcore punk, with the chorus that ends with the line, have you ever had the feeling you've been cheated, which is of course the last thing that Johnny Rotten said on stage at the Sex Pistols' last gig in San Francisco in 1978. So that's a nice nod to that. It also starts with Randy shouting 1 2 fuck you, which is always a winner. And then Insurrection, as I said before, fantastic song with clean vocals on it that worked brilliantly. Terminally Unique, another great song. And then number 12, To the End. Fucking brilliant. I love this. This is like ZZ Top meets Testament. It's brilliant. It's got a real kind of southern fried metal feel to it. It's got real groovy kind of southern rock licks on it, but it's heavy as hell as well. Incredibly groovy and catchy. It's brilliant. It's, you know, this is the track, I guess, that's got the biggest Pantera vibe to it. You know, it's got a real kind of Spirit of Dime thing going on it, but it's wonderful, absolutely brilliant. Visitation, again, another great track. There's no weak tracks on this album at all. It's fucking monstrous. It really is. I mean, you know, if you're a Lamb of God fan, you're going to absolutely fucking love it. If you're not a Lamb of God fan, I think it's still worth checking out, because there will be things on here that may surprise you. You know, if you like your metal, it's an album that you need to hear at the very least. The biggest surprise of all, and I'm sure, you know, you've heard people talking about it, is the final track, which is called King Me, and it's a 6 minutes plus epic that happens to feature an orchestra. It's got a huge string section on it, incredible dynamics. It's really powerful, really dramatic, and it's got its incredibly brutal and heavy parts as well. A really great kind of menacing vocal performance from Randy again. With almost like a spoken word part. A huge chorus with the orchestra on it. It's amazing. It's a stunning thing. And although you could say lots of bands have used strings on the stuff before, it's not something you'd expect from Lamb of God. And this idea that they're just a meat and potatoes metal band that don't take risks, I think this is it's a risk to take it. It's one of those things that people say, well, if you put an orchestra on your album, that's rubbish. It's not rubbish. It's fucking brilliant. It's a stunning song, and an amazing way to end the album. And like I say, overall, it's just I don't know. There's that tired old cliche of albums should be a musical journey, and I think up until this point, Lamb of God have put out albums that have been 11, 12 or however many songs, most of which have been brilliant, and they've been great metal records. This one is your actual musical journey. I think it takes the band to places they've never been before. It displays a desire to branch out and to kind of evolve musically without straying too far from that trademark sound. I think they're in it. I think it's to their credit that they're so instantly recognisable. That Chris Adler's drumming is so recognisable. It's a sign of a great drummer that you can tell it's him straight away. Both Willie Adler and Mark Morton deliver some amazing riffs on this record. The bass playing's killer on it as well. John Campbell's done a brilliant job. And like I say, the star of the show is Randy. Just amazing vocal performance throughout the album. Mark and Randy's lyrics are the best that the band have ever put together. There's some really great stuff on there. I can't say anything, I can't speak highly enough about this record, really. It's, we need the biggest bands in our scene and in our world to deliver great records, and this is by far Lamb of God's strongest album. It's I say a stone cold classic to start the year with. I can't find fault with it, really, and it's one of those albums that if you're a metalhead and not one of these people that kind of likes a bit of metal but is a bit embarrassed by the scene, or one of these people that kind of only likes really underground stuff, then yeah, it's probably not going to blow your mind at all, because if your mind's not open to stuff, then you'll have made your mind up before you get to hear it. But if you're a metalhead, a Metal Hammer reader, I think you're going to love the new Lamb of God album, Resolution. I think it's fucking amazing, and it sounds great cranked up. It sounds great in the car. So there you go, Lamb of God, fucking amazing record. Buy it, or don't buy it. But whatever you do, make sure you get to hear it, because it's fucking killer, seriously. And I'm very excited, but I'm very cold now as well, so I'm going to stop talking and go inside and play Sonic and Mario 2012 Olympic Games with Ozzy. So cheers. Heavy metal, congratulations to Lamb of God for delivering the album of their career, and I'll see you all again at another point. Fucking heavy metal. Nothing like it, eh? Happy days for Lamb of God fans. Cheers.